Rough Sunday and a rough weekend for the New York Mets as they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies in the city of brotherly love. So let's talk some Mets baseball. We're going to do it with the host of Mets Therapy, which some Mets fans might need right now. Andrew Claudio joins us. Andrew, how are you doing?
I've been better, Dexter, but thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure to talk some Mets baseball with you when we're not talking about Knicks basketball. And Andrew, Francisco Lindor's return to the Mets lineup, it did not last long at all. The shortstop left the game on Sunday before the bottom of the second inning after he missed Saturday's loss with a sore back. Lindor said after the game that he's going to get an MRI on his back tomorrow, being Monday. How concerned are you with Lindor's injury as the team looks to lock up a playoff berth?
I don't know how any Mets fan isn't significantly concerned about this injury and what this MRI could reveal. You hear his comments after the game that he's been struggling with this injury for a matter of weeks, and this is a guy that obviously plays through pain. Part of the MVP campaign that we've been pushing is that he plays every day. Well, so you know that it's got to be a significant injury if he's actually missing games. They do have 3 against the Washington Nationals over the next 3 days. You would hope that you could at least win a series against the Nationals team without Lindor, but their schedule is so brutal. You need him in the lineup for as many at-bats as possible. Under a different circumstance, you could treat him like Ohtani and just DH him, but the Mets already have multiple guys on the roster who are solely DHs, and they kind of have to reserve that spot for a JD Martinez or maybe a Jesse Winker. So plain and simple, they need to get their Gold Glove MVP shortstop back. And as much as this team has been resilient and bounced back from pretty devastating losses throughout the year, every low point that we think was the kill shot, they've just bounced back. I don't think a Francisco Lindor injury will be something they could come back from, but I've doubted them before. Hopefully they can prove me wrong again.
Yeah, hopefully it's not the one that's too much for the Mets and their fans. We'll see what the MRI results reveal, and hopefully Francisco Lindor is good to go down the stretch. So the Mets, they lose 2-1 on Sunday, second straight painful defeat to the Phillies. The bullpen doesn't get the job done again as Edwin Diaz allowed a game-winning single to JT Realmuto in the bottom of the 9th inning. Right now, Andrew, got to ask you this. Who do you trust in the Mets bullpen to hold the lead? Is there anybody that you trust right now?
So since the Corbin Carroll grand slam that Diaz gave up, I got to say the bullpen's actually been pretty outstanding. Over the last 16 games, which include this Phillies series, it's a 2.95 ERA, which is 10th best in baseball. It's 42 2/3 innings, which is a significant sample size. I know it's not the end-all be-all, but they lead the majors in holds, which is just simply you held the lead from one inning to the next. They've only allowed 1 home run, which is a meaningless home run in the bottom of the 9th inning against the Phillies, up 11-0 on Friday night. And look, they're last in walks, too. They've only allowed 14 walks. I say all of that because, Dexter, I kind of trust the majority of the bullpen. This is just 2 bad outings. Like Diaz, the walk-off single that he gave up was the first run he's allowed since that Corbin Carroll grand slam. Every single person that's struggled recently, Danny Young has been dependable for a lot of stretches recently. Ryan Stanek worked his way into the trust tree and then gave up, a run in the 8th inning on Saturday. Reed Garrett has been outstanding since coming back from the IL. Of course, gave up the go-ahead double. I think it's a trust tree. I think you trust that this, as long as they're well rested, you have a chance to get 3 outs out of somebody. There's no one dependable reliever that you go to. Like, I think the point that you're making, there's no one guy that you're like, all right, at least I know this person's coming in. You just trust that this trend over the last 2.5, 3 weeks will continue, that they have guys to get 3 outs. But as far as who I trust, it's a collection of all of them and Carlos Mendoza to utilize them correctly.
That feels like something that will give the Mets fans that are seeking the therapy a little bit of anxiousness, right? They might be a little bit anxious about that.
So to that point, I think that's kind of collectively throughout baseball, though. I think all bullpens are trust trees. Every now and then you get a Mariano Rivera, or honestly, it's just Rivera throughout history.
Yeah.
He has a history of blown saves that nobody likes to talk about, but he was the greatest reliever of all time for a reason. The Yankees, I think, have a dependable bullpen, but I don't need to tell a Yankee fan that and then get told about Clay Holmes. Outside of Emmanuel Clase on the on the Guardians, who has one of the best cutters I think we've seen since Rivera. There's really no dependable closer or dependable bullpen you could point to. The Mets are right around the middle of the pack with the other bullpens in the National League for blown saves. So you just hope that your bullpen gets hot, which they have over the last 3 weeks leading into this Philly series, and you hope the last 13 games of the season they get hot again.
Yeah, that is the key right there. Okay, Andrew, we're talking about the last 13 games of the season. Mets fans, they're going to want to put this weekend behind them. They want to look ahead to the schedule this week. So, Metropolitans, they open a 3-game set with the Nationals on Monday. Then the Phillies come to Flushing for a 4-game series on Thursday. What are you keeping your eye on with this Mets team this week as they begin the stretch of the final 13 games of the season?
Well, they reshuffled, I should say, their rotation. So it looks like you're going to get Sean Manaea on Monday. That does mean Tyler McGill is going to pitch Tuesday, it looks like, and then he'll also pitch again on Sunday. It's maybe greedy to ask for a 5-2 week, especially with the Phillies coming in for 4. They're going to need to win the week at least. Go 4-3. Hopefully you're either a game back or tied with the Braves going into next week's showdown. We'll see what happens with the Diamondbacks. They've gotten some scoreboard help from them. At time of recording, the Brewers just took the lead and are in danger of sweeping the Diamondbacks, who play the Brewers. Who play the Brewers again next weekend. So you gotta need some help, scoreboard help. You're gonna need to take care of business at home. And as far as specifically who needs to take care of business, this is the only time I'll shout out Pete Alonso, who a lot of Mets fans have wanted him to carry the lineup at some point this season. I'm not irrational to the year he's had. His power is a weapon, but like his runners in scoring positions numbers are just awful. In all of baseball, he's 8th in plate appearances with runners in scoring position, and he's last in batting average in the top 30 at a 209 clip. And if you want to go to OPS, to those who like to look at those numbers, like the only players in the top 30 of plate appearances with runners in scoring position that have a lower OPS than him are Adolis Garcia, who's having his equally as disappointing season. And oddly enough, Shohei Ohtani has a lower OPS with runners in scoring position than Pete Alonso. So, you'd love to see Pete just get hot for 2 weeks. So that way, especially if you're going to miss Lindor, it's not felt like such a loss. And, your big bat actually carries you for a little bit.
I'll say this. If Lindor is to miss any stretch of time over these next 2 weeks, it will be a great time for Pete Alonso to step up. We'll see if that can happen. We'll see how the Mets do this week. Tough weekend in Philly, but they're going to look to bounce back as we've seen them do many times this season. That is Andrew Claudio. He is the host of Mets Therapy. If you need some therapy, Mets fans, go give Andrew Claudio a check out. He might be able to help you feel better as we get down the stretch of the season. Andrew, always a pleasure to talk some Mets baseball with you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You as well, Dex. Good to see you.